it is relatively easy to come to see our physical body, this one that you are using now, as a resonating box designed to carry not only your consciousness, this aware entity that receives all the impressions through the senses, but also this body functions as a box that amplifies and directs your intention as a voice, as a signal designed to connect with other entities that also carry a body, designed to receive impressions from the environment and to communicate with those around. At this moment, we're going to switch, if you want to join us in a small voyage, the part of this body that is designed to carry the voice of the personality, the voice of the one who has a name, the one who thinks it is real. And open the signal for something else to speak through this voice. For we find ourselves sitting in this room, sharing a brief moment of silence. It is a brief and small moment. Stepping sideways from the hustle of daily life, we find ourselves in an island of experience. Outside this island, we can almost sense the humming vibration of the world, the noise of many lives going about their daily chores. But here in this bubble of experience, we perceive a different high-pitched sound entering the space, and we sense with the skin and the bones a deeper humming sound, almost imperceptible. More like the lower vibration of the air we breathe. I take in some air. I exhale some air. And I know I am surrounded by these waters of vibration. And here at the center, I witness the vibration all around me. I perceive sound, light, and I sense many different currents of energy floating about me. But here, deep, 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 in the center of the one who observes and the one who listens, there is a sensation of a steady presence. I know that one day, as it has happened before and will happen again, everything that I am will be taken apart into its component forms. And this vehicle of flesh that seems to carry the one who sees and the one who speaks will one day rest and will be taken apart, cell by cell, and molecule by molecule it will become again part of the environment, and each particle will go on to form part of other things and other beings. And all the things witnessed will leave an impression somewhere, in a place unknown that keeps records of this kind. Impressions of light, nuances of meaning, floating around in this ocean of subtle waters of light, moving. In currents and swellings. And the last thing to remain will be the bones of the vehicle that once carried a life and now remain only in this deep slumber. The quietest and most resilient part of this consciousness that now has a history to tell, that now has perceptions and fears, that now carries points, arguments, and hopes. But behind all movements of this mind, there is the deep slumber which remains every time when the self falls asleep. It remains this humming presence, this relentless sense of self, even after the I am has quieted down and all the memories seem to be dispelled for a moment. There remains this sensation of being present. Nowhere, no when, just presence, constant, unremitting, perennial. Is this perhaps the song of the bones being sung throughout centuries is this perhaps the chords of existence, maintaining the cause of a river, moving light through it? Is it perhaps the real self in each of us, simply a causeway, a pattern through which light and life flow through? And here we are experiencing life as rivers, as movements of water, as even the passage of lightning through unknown passageways, illuminated for a moment in the storm by the cracking of sound and the brilliance of light that lasts for only a brief moment, but leaves in the mind an impression of light and power and sound. Is it only in that brief moment when the brilliance of the lightning reveals the complex patterns that light knew to follow, invisible causeways, allowing the fluid light to flow through, and in becoming manifest and known, produces the stentor, the booming sound that disrupts the night? Is it perhaps the same invisible presence that we carry at the center of our bones, surrounding itself with flesh, with sinew and skin, producing around itself, or simply allowing the passage of blood and flesh to create for a brief moment a life, and with this life the sound of an experience? And what would happen then, as it happens now and happens over and over again, that the rivers that carry water will one day carry life, hopes, villages, and history. And so is this moment, where the unseen passage of centuries become for a moment exposed, not knowing in truth what is it that is about to be revealed, only knowing that there is an unknown vibration now not surrounding us, but being exposed from behind the throat, not in the heart, but in that space where the heart resides, in that unknown place, the tomb of old lives. What is this container that has seen the passage of life, not once, not 1,000, but an innumerable, infinite, an endless passage of lifetime after lifetime, each time forming in its own case a sense of self, the belief that it, the passenger, is the real self. Each passenger, an ephemeral flash of light, only real in the moment that it is making an impression, a flash of light each lifetime, never knowing that the real eternal one is the silent holder, the dark room that holds a wooden altar on top of which is the light of a flame. In this silent room, where so many lifetimes have passed, as many lifetimes as currents of water, eddies, and drops have moved and danced, creating so many incarnations of a river, lies at the bottom of it the rock, the cause, and the holder. And it is to these empty vessels, eternal, immortal, that I now speak. With a voice pushed out by a silence unnameable, present in the igneous rocks inside the volcano, present in the song of the stones that sing the songs of rivers, present in the unseen passageways in the sky that the light of thunder has no choice but to follow in order to become real and manifested in this night. I am speaking then through the night of eternities that holds within its womb the roaring sound of galaxies and stars, not only holding all light within, but allowing the light to manifest itself by giving it a form, a shape, a direction. I am the holder of destinies, the phylactery of the heart of creation, the altar in an empty room, and the room itself. I speak with words that are heard, sending them out not with meaning and sense, but with the awareness of endless weight, pushing forth each word and allowing each word to know so well that its only moment of existence is when it is uttered, that its only hope for a lifetime is its connection with other words in sentences that give rise to meaning and sense for a brief moment. Each sentence existing only now when it is uttered, and each sentence capable of being only because it is part of a flow of meaningful awareness. And yet, at this moment, these patterns and senses, these rivers of meaning, these lightning strikes of awareness are only coming to be, are only possible because each one has been made to be aware of itself. Each one has become self-aware and awakened, knowing its own mortality, knowing that as soon as they are done, only the silence will prevail. Each sentence, carrying each word, knows at this precise moment that its beginning is the unknown silence that has held all languages for as long as human beings have been uttering words, and at the end of each word and each sentence and each telling is the eternal silence, full only of the patterns of light, life, and sense that have become manifest throughout the aeons, and that I am now at this very moment in the middle of a lifetime, passing through an unknown passage. I have tried to think of it as destiny, as personal history, as a lifetime. And yet, I know now that this lifetime in its entirety has begun with a deafening silence and will end in the brilliance of the eternal night. And as I pass through it, I reveal with my being a dark, silent passage It is the passage that remains. It is the causeway that stays for other light, for other waters to flow through it. And when I close my eyes and I listen to the silence that pushes away each word, I notice each word losing their thread and their meaning. I find myself unable to witness the clarity that used to be here just a brief moment away. And I keep hearing each word, and I'm unable to connect the entirety of the parade of words, unable to hold an overarching meaning, only glimpses of passages, as if touching with my hands the bottom of a deep and endless river, as if maybe sensing with my bones the patterns of light that the lightning storm is about to take. And I witness these innumerable passageways for each being, each person, each sentient creature that has a lifetime, that enjoys a beginning and an end. And I see the interconnected matrix of causes and passages before they are illuminated, just holding a space of eternal silence, out of which and through which all light and sound pass and become seen. I extend a subterranean sense of awareness, interconnected with each other through our bones, as if we are already what we have always been. Bones interconnected with each other in the subterranean mansions of the earth, remembering dreams of life, sensing around us as a dream seems to create sensations of life around us. Remembering the lifetimes that once passed through the sensing of these bones in familiar company, with the bones of each other, telling stories of lifetimes through unknown old languages, only understood by the dreamers in passages dark and unknown. And here we rest in the eternal laziness of interconnected wires, not of light, but of the passages of light, not of sound, but of the silent causeways of sense and sound. Here we are, having memories and sensations of memories. Here we are, knowing that we are listening to each other, not directly, but through the remembered sensations of lifetime lived. For there is nothing that can speak in that depth. There is nothing that can hear or be heard in the slumber of eternity. There is, however, the rumbling sensation of deep roots made of bone, and the living darkness of silent flows. And it is with those deep roots that we touch one another, that we become not one or many, that we become aware, if that would be possible, of the immense nothingness, the passages, not of time, but eternities. Eternities upon which the light and sound produce flow and the sensation of time, of beginnings and ends, and each flash of light and stentor of sound producing a brief moment where there seems to be a presence, a roaring sound of life, a brief moment in which we are. And so we sound and send vibrations and patterns of dreamlight, somehow projecting it out of ourselves. We can never get up there completely. We can only appear as small ripples and eddies of vibration, producing sound and words from the depth of this silence, striking at times our dreams together to produce brief flashings of light, and perhaps to disturb and disrupt this sleep of forgetfulness with the roaring sound of an electrical storm. We send up particles of will from the depth of being, just to see and feel, to experience a passage of time, a moment of life, a small space in an alternate world, ephemeral and flimsy, yes, but holding there the possibility of stories told, of loves lost, of life, of sound. We send out there, not ourselves, for we are not to be manifested. We are only to provide the all passages. We send instead our creations, the sounds and sparks of old I, briefly witnessing the splendor of moments created. We send and speak through the voice of poets and mad seers. We speak not in words and stories. We speak in silences that surround particles of sense and light. We are not seen ever. We are the invisible causeways that the stars follow. We are the voiceless of the deep. We are the bones of the dead. We are what was never to be. We are beyond the possibilities, only the holders of all things that came to be and ceased to exist. We are the fingernails of the spider, wrapping and tapping an endless cobwebs of history. We are the depth beneath the sea. We are not the sentient beings. We are the empty vessels that hold all your dreams. We are the darkness that push through. We are the quiet stentor. We are the end of times, the devourer of stars. We are the unchangeable, the relentless. We are the depth of the restlessness. We are the change and the end of things. We are the unknown beyond all thoughts. We are the dark beneath the seer. We are not the observer or the observed. We are the nothing that devours everything known and the knower too. We are the silence beyond the chamber. We are the memories of the bones and the sleeper, the dreams, all dreams. I am not, I will never be or have ever been. The not I. Beyond that, I am. There is the infinite darkness that holds the light. There is only the currents of silence. Whose whispers spark patterns of sound and sense. I am not the things being said. I am not the utterer of these words. There is only the whispers translated into sentience that emanate from the light touch of the fingers of eternity behind the consciousness of the one who speaks. There is only the depth of death, barely touching the throat of the teller of things. And in that light touch behind my back, I become now aware with you of the passage of time, of things being said, of tiny pleasant ripples of vibration. I become aware of coming back into a lifetime and a body. I somehow have enough light and language to move, to adopt a face and a life, to listen to the words of the one who speaks, to make sense of them once again. And the thing that spoke recedes now into its usual place in the background of all things, to hold a lifetime, to hold this passage that we are going through. it remains as mysterious as ever. It made a brief appearance, perhaps, or it simply sent a small hand to touch that part that holds awareness and memory. It whispered perhaps a different story to each one who witnessed this moment. And that whisper perhaps will manifest as the splendor of a lightning strike, or as the singing of a river following its passage to the sea. But now, for now, the visitor appears to have receded, and we are here again, coming back from a journey, witnessing the ripples of the presence of the old ones. Small electrical lights, small touch of delicate hands all around the skin. And with this unpredictable and unknown touch, we plug ourselves back in to the roaring sound of history and the world that is happening outside, ready to adopt the unique passage of light and life in this moment where you are. Aho, me oui.
We stand on the bones, surrounded by those seen and unseen. The silence around the telling for me reveals how each word is a universe. I open the floor to questions for Coyote. Please feel free to put them in the chat or just to unmute yourself and speak out. Thank you.
If it is in the chat, I'll ask someone to read them for me. It always takes a minute or two.
I have an observation and a question. Thank you, Maestro. This was unlike tellings of the past, where you would often take us to worlds and spaces unfamiliar, unknown, and navigate that, be the tour guide of the wonders. And this was very much a kind
it it kind of looks like there is an electrical storm outside your room behind you. Yeah, the human being started its journey when the Greeks saw it as the Olympian gods rose up against the old gods, and they relegated them to the unconscious of humanity. And the Olympian gods, led by Jupiter, became what we now understand as our consciousness. This human mind, with all its psychology and complexity, is what the Greeks were representing by the Olympian gods. The old ones are not gone, they are under the surface. That's where Kronos, the god of time, still waits to devour its children, and where the faculty of space resides. The devourer of worlds, the creator, the destroyer, the maintainer. But the human surface, guarded by the sense of I am, the watchkeeper of the ocean of eternity, and the old one who guards the passage to the underworld. Allow this space of consciousness where we can be a human being. Of course, the shaman moves beyond those guards to deal with the ones who were here before and the ones who are to come. The consciousness of the human being requires a revolution beyond the gods. It is not about going back to the sleep of the animal and the rock, but it is not either to be stuck in the slavery of the human world. It is to expand beyond, to hold the light and spinnings of galactic consciousness. All the gods of all the pantheons are only the architectural designs of our consciousness. And out of this, a new being ought to emerge. The coming of the new being is as that of a sun walking the earth. Who utilizes all the elements of consciousness to create the new. And that new consciousness of cosmic import is the evolution of humanity. What we are doing now in these times, it's simply rearranging the dream of humanity so that the awakening at a massive global scale may happen. It is not to create a better dream, it is to heal what has been severed in the human psyche so that the next evolutionary step may be born.